In this video, I'll go over how to build your own Wireguard SPK file for your Synology NAS using Docker. And a special thanks to the effort of Andreas Rundfalk in getting Wireguard to run on a Synology NAS with his Synology Wireguard GitHub project. And Black Void for the excellent post on how to build your own Wireguard SPK file for a Synology NAS, which I referenced as a base for the steps that I go through in this video. Also, look for links to these references in the description below. Let's get started, and one way to build a Wireguard SPK file for your Synology NAS is to use your Synology NAS, and I'll go through those steps next. As prerequisites, we'll need to install the Docker package from the Package Center, then enable SSH because we'll need to use the command line to build the SPK file. We'll also need a location to store the SPK file, so using FileStation, I'll create a subdirectory under the Docker folder that I'll make use of. Next, I'll SSH into my Synology NAS. Switch to the root user by using the sudo-i command, and issue this command to start the process of building the SPK file. This docker run command removes the container after it runs in privileged mode, and takes two environmental variables: package_arc, which I've set to kvm x64, and dsm_ver, which I've set to 7.1. To figure out the package architecture for your Synology NAS, you can check out this web page listed here on screen, which provides CPU information for each Synology NAS that has been released. I'll also link to this webpage in the description below. Next, the command includes a bind mount which maps the directory that was created earlier with the /result_spk directory within the container. The last entry is the image that is used to build the SPK file. I'll run the command, which took about 10 minutes to complete, and in my case, I received the line 93 dev null permission denied error, which seems to be a common issue when trying to build a Wireguard SPK file on a Synology NAS. I've tried building the image using a DS220+, DS920+, and using a virtual DSM VM, and in all cases I received the same error. If the build worked on your Synology NAS, I'd be curious to know what model you are using if you could leave a comment in the description below. If you also ran into the same error message, an alternative would be to use another system to build the SPK file. And if your Synology NAS supports running virtual machines, you could install Ubuntu as a VM, which I cover in this video listed here on screen, and which I'll link to in the description below. This is what I did in my case, so I'll SSH into an Ubuntu VM that I set up on my Synology NAS. And next, I'll need to install Docker. To do this, I'll be using the instructions provided by Docker themselves, which you see here on screen, and I'll leave a link to these instructions in the description below. Now I'll run through the steps and first use apt to update the package index and install the packages needed so that an HTTPS repository can be used. Next, I'll add Docker's official GPG key, set up the Docker repository, and run apt-get update again to update the package index to include the Docker repository. I'll then install the latest version of Docker using this command here. This takes a few minutes to complete, and once done, I'll issue the docker run hello world command to confirm that Docker is set up properly. The command completed successfully, so I know the Docker installation on my Ubuntu VM is working. Now I'm ready to build the Wireguard SPK file. I'll first create a directory to store the SPK file that I'd like to build. Then I'll paste in the Docker command I used earlier on my Synology NAS, change the bind directory to the one that I just created, and run the command. In about 10 minutes, the command successfully completed, and if I cd into the directory that was created to store the SPK files, I can confirm that the build of the Wireguard SPK files work properly. At this point, I can download the SPK files. Here, I'm using FileZilla to log on to my Ubuntu VM, and I'll download the files that were created to my MacBook. I'll then switch back to DSM and bring up the Package Center to install the SPK file. Here, I'll select Manual Install, and from this window, I'll browse and select the Wireguard SPK file for my Synology NAS, then click Upload. I'll click Next to continue. Agree to this warning regarding third-party packages. Uncheck the Run After Installation box and click Done. At this point, Wireguard is installed, but to start Wireguard requires the command line, so I'll bring up my SSH session to my Synology NAS once again. I'll run sudo-i to log in as the root user, then issue this command to start up Wireguard. Now, back in DSM, we can see that Wireguard is running. And to configure Wireguard further, you want to check out either of these videos listed here on screen to continue setting up your Wireguard install. Lastly, if you'd like to support my work, check out the Support This Channel section in the description below. Thanks so much for watching.